We're down at Ocean Village Marina in Southampton today at the end of the South Coast Boat Show to transport a boat from here over to Swanwick Marina for the beginning of the British Motor Yacht Show. And that boat is this, the latest from the Cockwell's Hardy fleet, and it's called the Hardy 45 European. Now, the first thing to notice about this boat, if I spin the camera around, is the fact that it's obviously quite low slung. There's a relatively modest air draft, plus we got a folding radar arch up top and no flybridge. So the principle here is that this is a boat, well, the clue's in the name, isn't it? The 45 European, that you can take on Europe's inland waterways, fit beneath the various bridges. But we've still got a very serious hull. This is the established Hardy 42 hull. It's a very fine entry, very substantial bow flare designed to keep you very comfy, soft riding in rough seas, but also very dry. The principle being that yes, you can use it for inland waterways, but it's also a proper offshore Hardy. These elevated rails, of course, back all of that up, and this very workmanlike foredeck, no cushions there at all, but it's very much a custom boat, so you can spec whatever you like there. So this is genuinely a proper offshore boat, but rather than me gassing, you can hear that the engines are kicked into life. So what we'll do is we'll jump on at the back end and ascend to that raised wheelhouse and get ourselves underway. Well, we just popped out of Ocean Village Marina around the corner to fuel up, so we'll take the opportunity just to step out onto the side decks and take a look at what we got out here. Now, as you can see, we've got steps here on the starboard side. This is symmetrical, so equally precipitous on both sides, but you've got good stainless steel grab rails to make our way down to this fixed swim platform at the aft end. And what we have here, well, on the face of it, is not a great deal. We've got fender baskets up top there. We've got space here for a tender, and of course there's various ways you could organise that. But what we also have is a very flat vertical moulding, and that's of course to generate the volume beneath that wheelhouse for an aft cabin. Now, they're not all the rage these days. There seems to be a bit of a downward trend against the aft cabin, but I'm a big fan of them because of course it means that as the owner you get natural separation between your zone and the guest cabins further forward. Now, with a great many offshore boats, this one included, you struggle with light and views from hull windows. Quite often you don't get any hull windows at all, and I'm fairly confident we don't get any here. If I just crane around the side, it'll probably validate that. But what we do get, as you can see, 3 windows in the side moulding there, an additional couple here just to generate some extra brightness. So I'm really looking forward to getting in there and seeing what kind of volume and what kind of brightness we're dealing with in that big full beam aft cabin. What we'll do now though is head up onto the port side deck. You know, it is quite steep, but it's perfectly safe, onto this raised section of deck again, which generates that volume for that aft cabin, and then step down to this lower central section of deck. It makes sense then, given that this is slightly lower, that we've got a side gate here, and we get that on both sides. And if I ease around the corner there, you'll see there's some tread plate as well, just to ease your way up and down onto a pontoon, which is very easily done, I've got to say, for a boat of this size. And as you make our way forward, well, here is the bow deck I've already mentioned. Not very recreationally sophisticated, as you can tell. There's not a lot going on here. But as I've also intimated, this is very much a custom platform. It's pretty much the external mouldings and the internal saloon deck are fixed, and everything else inside that shell essentially is yours to play with pretty much as you wish. So here, of course, it's no problem at all from a company like Cockwell's, which specialises and has done for many years in proper custom one-off boats, to generate the cushions you need to make this a bit more leisure friendly. As things stand though, it's very workmanlike and practical. Lots of lovely deck space here to make your way from side to side, carry out your seamanship duties. Elevated guardrails, as I say, to keep you safe. Good quality steel work. An additional little Samson post beneath here, and of course the anchor mounted right up there on the stem with a chain locker that is accessed in the forward part of that bow cabin. The only thing you'd have to say you lack up here are dedicated compartments for your lines and your fenders, but of course with such elevated guardrails there's plenty of opportunities to fix brackets to those and tie them off. If we head back down the starboard side deck, you'll see we're filling up as we speak. We've got 2 fillers, one on either side, and 3 tanks, 2 wing tanks and an additional tank in the keel, because the principle with this offshore boat, of course, is to keep the weight as user-friendly as possible, which means central and low down, so we get the best possible sea keeping and the best possible comfort if you choose to go on long cruises. As you'll also see though, we spilt a bit of fuel on the deck, so it'd be good to see these fuel fillers in their own little troughs. But that said, it's not the disaster you might imagine, because at Cockwells they don't tend to use natural teak anymore. This is the plastic version. It's very nicely done, I have to say, but of course it's much easier to tidy up if you get that kind of spillage. Now if we head back up onto the elevated deck and into the wheelhouse now, as you can see, it's wrapped in canvases, and it needs to be, because it's up on top, it's relatively exposed. And if I just dip the camera down, you'll see on this particular model, though everything is, as I say, very custom friendly, there's no lower helm. That entire saloon is given over to recreation, to sociability. So it's important that you have the ability to keep the weather off in this upper helm, and it's expertly done. It's quite a cool system actually. As you can see, we've got canvases over the front that lead back to the radar arch, which itself, as I've said, is a folding unit. And if we release these catches here, one on either side of that central screen section, and unzip that part, that entire section folds back against that radar arch, and the aft section folds down behind this aft dinette. But it's quite useful that this dinette is open actually. The side's open as well, and as you can see, there's plenty of volume in there, and that storage space goes all the way through. There are no bulkheads to divide it off. Good strong rams there as well, and nicely finished too. You can rub your fingers all over this, and there's no prospect that you're going to cut them on shards of fiberglass. It's very nicely done indeed. There's room there, I'd say, for at least 7 people. There's an additional table fitting in there, and these helm seats, well, they both spin around as well to face aft, and we have an additional companion seat to port of these raised helm seats, so you could very feasibly sit 10 people in here, no problem at all. But as we set off from the fuel berth now, we'll pop down below and see what they've done with the saloon. Now, more steps take you down, and honestly, look at the quality of this joinery. It's absolutely lovely. You'll see that all over this boat. But look, once we're down here, what we get in the absence of a helm station is pretty impressive. Now on the port side, we've got a raised dinette, and they're not raising that to generate volume down below because there are no mid cabins. You've got the engines directly beneath here, a pair of 6-cylinder Yanmar 440 horsepower diesels. What this is for is simply to elevate your seating position such that when you sit down, your eye level enables you to see the full view forward as well as on the beam. Really good thinking, that. And if you want somewhere more relaxed to sit, well, we've got lounge seating at a lower level with a coffee table down here, L-shaped on the starboard side aft. It's a very sociable space, and if you can fit 10 up top in that wheelhouse, then you can certainly fit at least that many down here in the main saloon. We've also got a side door. I was going to call it a skipper's side door, but of course it isn't, because we don't have a helm down here to give you access out onto that starboard side deck. And while it does swing out into position, and as you can see, it's quite a thick piece of hardware, you think maybe that's going to block your way going fore and aft on that starboard side deck. Well, actually, the side decks on this boat are really quite generous, so it's not an issue at all. Even with it open, you can squeeze past no problem. We also have a TV that raises out of this section ahead of that dinette, which is not ideal for the people at the dinette, but it's perfect for the people back here on the lounge seating. And we have thermostatically controlled zones all over this boat, so you can make yourself comfortable wherever you happen to be. And as for those engines, well, as I say, a pair of Yanmar 6-cylinder diesels, 440 horsepower, which should be good, they tell me, for around about 28 knots from this semi-displacement hull. But if you want to go this single engine route, as a lot of inland waterways boaters do, then you can certainly do that, minimise your maintenance costs, generate a bit of extra space, and also, of course, just cut down on those running costs very substantially. And apparently with a single 440 down here, it's still good for around about 16 knots. access to that engine room is beneath this section of deck. As you can see, we've got hinges at the back end there, and in order to lift that, you have to lift this leaf of the table first. But of course, if you want simple daily access, then this hatch is the preferable access point. You've got a generator within easy reach, plus the various servicing points that you need. But what you really want to do now is head forward and investigate the galley en route to that bow cabin. Now you take 3 steps down, and the main part of the galley is on the starboard side. We've got an induction hob here, decent bit of work surface there, additional storage, I think, yeah, and a pretty generous 2-part sink, plus some high-level storage up top here. Now when I came down here and looked at this, I thought, well, that's not a very generous window, and if you get a bit green when you go down below in a corkscrewing sea just to make a cup of tea, then this could cause you a bit of a problem. But actually, because there's no deck head here, because you're open to the main saloon, you can just about see the horizon over there on the port side, and you get plenty of natural light and air, so it's not in any way claustrophobic. Let's just close this cabin door over for a second. Actually, as I do so, this is worth mentioning, we've got proper stainless steel clips here, not just magnets. So when you open the door and clip this into place with this fastener, it stays put whether you're alongside or at sea, so that's a neat touch. I like that. And also like the fact that the galley hasn't been compromised by huge fridge and freezer units. They sit over here on the port side. Big fridge there, and an unusually big freezer directly next to that. Additional storage there again, another little port light, and this here is access to the day heads, which is in a very good spot. It's well laid out, this boat. A separate shower makes great use of the space with a little curved circular shower tray. The toilet outboard, another decent size of sink, another port light. It's not especially luxurious, but it is perfectly acceptable, and headroom's very good too. And if we move back out of there, close that door back over, again, that's clipped itself shut, and move forward. Well, this is your bow cabin. As you can see, we've got a scissor berth in here. We also have an infill for that, this V-shaped section up here. I don't see anywhere sensible to stow that. I had a look into this cupboard on the starboard side, and here are the slats for that infill, so they go in there fine. But as far as I can tell, this just roams about until you need it. But what we have in here, again, is very decent headroom beneath that raised island sunbed. Well, it's not a sunbed, is it, without cushions, but beneath that raised moulding on the foredeck. A little bit of light from additional windows in the side of that moulding. As I said, no actual hull windows, but plenty of storage again here. They've really made great use of the space. Look at that. You can actually see the angle of the hull, and that's lined with a kind of carpeting material just to minimise noise and condensation. Makes it a bit quieter, more comfortable. There's another thermostat, reading lights at the head end. And I've laid on these beds, and they're pretty much 6 foot long. So I was thinking, well, perhaps they could engineer a way where this infill operates as a panel at the foot of the bed, but you don't want to be losing 3 or 4 inches off the length when it's only 6 feet in length anyway. But what we'll do is spin ourselves around, making sure we notice we've got hanging storage here on the starboard side, plus of course access to that day head so you can use it as your ensuite, and head back up and through the saloon, past those steps up to the helm and over to the port side. Because down here we have the showstopper on this boat, which is of course that aft cabin. But what I really like as we go down these steps is this little cabinet here. Let's crack that open because this is quite interesting. As you'll see, we've got a little drain down in the base of that. So this is a proper wet locker. How handy is that? That's quite a rare thing on boats these days. But there it is on the inside, just next to your cabin, so you can hang up damp foulies before you go into the cabin itself. And this is what we find. Full beam. There are these windows that I talked about. If we just move aft and sit at bed level, well, there's certainly no arguments with the scale of the view or the quality of the light from that. A little bit more pinched on the starboard side. As I say, the windows are not huge here, but we do have those 3 on the port side. And again, what I want to talk about here particularly is the storage and the quality of this storage. Actually, as you can see, we've got ranks of storage on both sides of the bed. A huge rank of storage here on the starboard side. It's as though Cockwell's in-house joinery department has really chosen this boat to show off what it can do. It just doesn't want to stop. It's fantastic. You just could not ask for more on a long cruise. The bed's a good size, but you could certainly enlarge that if you chose. And over here on the port side, we've got more hanging storage, a dressing table with a little stool underneath and a little mirror section that comes up to grant you access to another couple of shelves of storage for your knickknacks. Plenty more further aft as well, and again, just beautifully done in this oak-faced marine ply. And in it, oh, look at this. This is a Dyson car and boat vacuum. That's very new. They sent me one, and it's a fantastic piece of equipment for boats. Well worth looking into if you've got a bit of money to spend on a vacuum. But that's not what we're here for. Let's head further forward and take a look. That's not it at all. Let's head further forward on the starboard side and take a look at the ensuite facilities. Because of course these are not shared, these are very private indeed. And you'll have noticed already this curved bulkhead on the starboard side. Well, that's to make best possible use of space for another circular, or I should say cylindrical shower aft. It's a really decent size, that, with a little seat to perch your bum on and a ledge for your various potions, a toilet in the angle forward, and another really decent size of sink with storage both up top and down below. Well, I'm at the helm of this 45 European now, and I've got to say it's a pretty attractive place to be, not least because it's quite unusual to me. You know, most helm stations are considerably further forward. We're perched up top, and because of the deck layouts, we're a good way aft, which means we can see the entire boat out there in front of us, and I particularly enjoy that. And what I also like about this is the fact that there's actually not a lot here on the dash at all. We've got a couple of 12-inch plotters, and almost all the switching is digital here. We just got a couple of switches here on the right-hand side, one for your thruster and one for your horn. That aside, it really is very pared back indeed. A beautiful Italian handmade steering wheel that's adjustable. A pair of seats, each with armrests that slide fore and aft. And as I've mentioned, they rotate to face aft if you want to feel a little bit more sociable when you come to a standstill. A cup holder over here on the starboard side, which is oddly enough quite an important thing to me. I love a cup of tea, and it's more often than not it's forgotten on some of these boats. We also have a joystick here. We've got our data display for the engines on the starboard side here, and the compass is perfectly mounted directly in my eye line. So what we'll do is get her straight underway now and have a little play and see how she does. Because as I mentioned, this is a semi-displacement hull. It's the hull of the 42. So we got that fine entry, we got that substantial bow flare. So what I'm hoping for, and kind of expecting in fact, is quite a soft ride and quite a dry one too. Now, of course, the fact that our decks are elevated, the fact we don't have a low-level external aft cockpit, means that it's difficult for a boat to feel particularly wet because we're raised up here out of the way. As I get underway though, well, I can already see that bow flare in action. I see the water getting kicked well wide, even of the lower level side decks here. We're moving through around about 14 knots to 15 knots, which is an ideal sort of cruising band for this boat. And between 15 and 17 knots, we're looking at about 5.3 litres per nautical mile. Push on between 17 and 23 knots, we're looking at 5.7 litres per nautical mile. So we're looking at a range around about 230 to 250 miles, saving 20% in reserve from that 1,650 litre tanks. Now we can, of course, as you'd expect, drop that down to 5 knots for about a litre a mile, in which case you've got 1,300 mile range. You can increase it right to the top end, of course, 26 odd knots, in which case we're still seeing a range around about 200 miles. So that's very decent. It's a really good return. And you kind of expect that from a semi-displacement hull like this. You kind of just adjust your behaviour to suit your range. But what's particularly interesting here is the fact we don't actually have any trim tabs. The owner of this boat has decided to spec it without them because he didn't tend to use tabs on his last boat. I think that's a bit of a mistake, and it's not like we run particularly bow up, and the fact that we're helming up top rather than down below kind of mitigates any sense of bow up attitude to a degree, but still it'd be worth investing in some tabs just to dip the nose a little and just enable the hull to run that touch flatter, and that of course would also mean that you can run at much slower speeds and better control your pitch. There's a couple of other things to talk about though, and that's the fact that, delicate old sausage that I am, go out on a lot of boats, I like to be really, really comfortable at the helm. So for me, even though we got fore and aft travel here, I'd like a little foot brace just so I can prop my legs up on something so I'm not digging into my tired old hamstrings, which is a bit uncomfortable. And I find the screen rim is kind of at horizon height until you actually stand yourself up. But I'm sure, given the custom company that Cockwell's is, they can organise workarounds for either of those issues. And in dynamic terms, well, it's precisely what we expect. It's a well-proven hull. They worked hard to put the weight exactly where it ought to be, so it performs in every regard as I'd hoped. As a 45-foot aft cabin cruiser from a very bespoke artisan builder, this is of course not a mass market boat. On the contrary, actually in recent times aft cabin cruisers have tended to see a bit of a decline, not least in part due to the fact that some people deem that elevated sort of vertical aft end fairly unattractive. But what we have here is a very safe and seaworthy boat of a very manageable size, with a huge saloon relative to the overall length, as well as very private cabins, including that excellent aft cabin. More to the point, it's a multi-theatre boat, as useful for the inland waterways of Europe as it is for offshore passages, and it's built, as I say, by an artisan maker exactly to your specifications, and that for me makes it a pretty exciting package. Now, whether you agree with that or not, please do leave your feedback in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, then please do subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.